Good evening, and welcome to our last week of driver education. You can see I've gone back to the original mic that I had started with, so if people could give me some idea of what we're actually hearing, that would probably be helpful. I've made a few changes with what the computer can do with hearing feedback, so I haven't been able to test it, so tonight will be the first class that I'm able to hear what it really sounds like. So I've gone back to putting headphones in. I've turned down my computer speakers so I don't hear the music. I know the music's still being played a little bit in the background, so I'm going to bring that down just a little bit. So hopefully everybody will be able to hear it. We've got content for tonight and for tomorrow. Wednesday's class will be review, and then our final will be on Thursday. So this is the home stretch. This is where we kind of wrap it all up. Wednesday we'll kind of take a look at the state manual, and we'll kind of go over a lot of the homework assignments that you had. So please try to finish any type of outstanding homework that you have. Get it back to me. If you're missing anything, you can find it on Facebook, our remote page. If that doesn't work, then send me a text and I'll try to get out a copy through a text message somehow. So that's what we're doing this week. So hopefully you had a good, relaxing Labor Day weekend. I know I did. I was able to get some work done around the house and visited with family this weekend, so it was good. Not that I miss driving with you, but it's good to get away from instructing and kind of refresh. As you can see, I have been working on my little room here, so I threw in some lights and noticed my little police officer. I found this many years ago, and actually says no smoking, but I figured let's make it more applicable to what we're doing here online. So I put down no distractions. So that means that when you are online in class, don't have another computer beside you, don't have your phone. Just like when you're driving, stay focused on the task at hand. And the task tonight is to take notes and to get a good idea of what it takes to share the road with large tractor trailers, motorcycles, pedestrians. So those are the three major groups that we're going to be taking a look at tonight. The first one, let's kind of dive right into the PowerPoint. So let me click this on. Sharing the road with tractor, trailers, motorcycles, and bicycles. Now, we're going to take probably the most the most obvious one that we find that we have a difficult time dealing with is tractor trailers because of their length, their width, and the speed that they travel. Now, I know most of you have told me that your parents have taken you on the highway, and I think that's fine. And remember, when we talked about highways, there are different types. So we talked about turnpikes, toll roads, thoroughways, freeways. So not every highway is created equal. And when we take a look at a roadway, and I want you to write this down, any highway that has 3 lanes is extra difficult because you have to pay attention to both side mirrors, left and right. Anytime that you have a single lane highway, you're only dealing with what's happening in front of you and behind you. And even if you just have one other lane, it's not too difficult to be driving in a left lane and keep an eye on your right view mirror. But when you've got 3 positions, rear, right rear, and left rear to pay attention to, it's easy to get lapsed in to missing one of these checks. And before you know it, someone's occupying space around you, and it's difficult to know where your position in your lane is. Now, the other thing that I want you to understand is that if you have a difficult time staying in your lane on a 30, 35 mile an hour roadway, what makes you believe that you're going to be able to handle staying in your lane on a highway that's 55, 60, 65? It actually becomes more difficult because you're traveling more space and less time. So this is why I tell parents is work on basic driving skills at lower speeds, perfect that position of centering your vehicle in town, and then that should translate into a more relaxing, comfortable drive on the highway. I drove to Boston yesterday and had to go through downtown Boston through the tunnel on 93. And let me tell you, people do not like staying in their lane, meaning that they don't use signals. They wander over the line. Even though they're staying in their lane, they just wander onto the dotted line. And that's really part of your lane. That dotted line is for both lanes. You just don't want to be on it because now you're 6 inches to a foot closer than you should be. So driving on a highway is pretty difficult when you're dealing with 3 lanes. So let's write down what are some of the characteristics that we find in tractor trailers. They're very long. They can be as long as 120 feet. Fully loaded, they could be carrying cargo and having 80,000 pounds. Now, you don't need to know this, but at 55, and this is kind of a lower speed because most highways now are 65 or 70, that the stopping distance of a tractor trailer will be about 3 times the distance that you need to stop. Now, when does this come in to be a problem to you? Is that if you pass or move back into front of a tractor trailer and then have to bring your speed down because of another car maybe stopping or slowing down in front of you. You're not going to hit the car in front of you because you're lighter and have a better control of your braking system. If you cut in front of a large tractor trailer, they may not be able to do that. So don't assume because you could pull out in front of a tractor trailer and slow down real quick that they're going to be able to do it too, because it's just not going to work that way. Wide turns, I think we've mentioned before. We know that this happens, write this down, in cities. This is why we talked about display stop lines. They're there in the city for large vehicles, buses, tractor trailers, making turns for deliveries. And it doesn't take much to figure out if they're fully loaded and they're so long, they're not going to pick up speed like we can at a traffic light. So be very careful being behind a large truck with a green light. You're going to be waiting for a while. And let me explain a little bit about this term. And I will test you on this on Thursday, so write this down. A no zone is a blind spot that you should not be traveling in. So we know a blind spot is an area that a vehicle can be hidden. But if you're driving in that hidden area for any period of time, we call that a no zone. You want to either get in front of it or you want to get behind it. Because if you linger in that area for any period of time, the truck driver may have forgotten to check his mirrors. And when he looks in there and he goes, oh, there's nobody beside me right now, then maybe he'll start to make a lane change, not realizing that you indeed are still there. And it's more difficult for them to see you in a no-zone area to the right than it is to the left. And I think most of you will agree that the little circle convex mirror that I have on my driver's ed vehicle is very handy not only for parking, but it does eliminate that blind spot no-zone area because it gives you a wider angle. It takes away what you can't see. So if you can really use that little mirror well, a shoulder check isn't necessarily something that you need to do. Although when you go for your license, they do want to see it. But I highly recommend trying to put one of those little side mirrors onto your vehicle. So let's take a look at what trucks do and how they act. So let me show you. This was provided by a trucking company. They have their best interest to put out safety videos for young drivers to know how to handle large trucks because it makes their job a little bit easy. So I was given this video, and I think it's very good.
Hello, my name is Ralph Garcia, and I'm a professional truck driver with 37 years experience on the road with 3.5 million miles of safe driving. Today, you're going to have the opportunity to hear firsthand from professional truck drivers how to maneuver around a truck safely. First of all, let's go over some tips before we get started. Never cut in front of a truck. Give us enough room. Second, stay out of the blind spots around a truck. Third, have enough cushion behind us. Don't follow too closely so you have enough time to stop. Also, trucks make wide right turns. Give us enough space to do those turns. And if you break down on the side of the road, make sure you get far enough off the road that you're safe. And last but not least, distracted driving. Don't text and drive. Stay off that phone. Let's get started, and we're going to hear from our drivers.
Hey, I'm Alan Boyd. I've been driving trucks professionally for 35 years. I know I don't look that old, right? Scratch that, don't answer. What I've learned is the right side of this truck is the largest blind spot we have. This blind spot can actually go over 3 lanes wide. I can lose a whole tractor and trailer. So it's very important when you get in this position to get yourself out as quickly as you can. Did you know that 35% of all car-truck related accidents, the car is in the truck driver's blind spot? Well, it's true. And how do you know that you're in the blind spot? In this position, it's very important to make sure you can see that driver's smiling face in the mirror. If you can't see that truck driver smiling face in the mirror, he can't see you. Remember, when that truck moves over to the left lane to let you off a ramp, that brings you out into this position, and that's okay. Make sure you slow down a little bit, allow the truck time to get back in front of you. That allows everybody to pass on the left where it's a lot safer. Remember to make good decisions when you drive.
Hi, I'm Alfonso Lewis. I've been a professional truck driver for 28 years, have 1.4 million safe driving miles. And today I want to talk to you about the rear blind spot of a tractor trailer. First of all, I want to tell you where I do not want you. I don't want you tailgating me. You know why? If I make a sudden stop, guess where you may end up? It's right here. I don't want you there. One other thing, I'm a big guy and I drive a pretty big truck. If there's an object in the road, I can straddle it. And if I straddle it and it comes out and you don't see it, you will not have time to react. Think about that object as an alligator. You don't want that alligator to bite you. So I want you 20 car lengths behind me where I can see you. If you can see my mirror, you're in a safe spot where I can see you and you can see me. And that's where I want you at.
Hello, my name's Don Biggerstaff. I'm a professional truck driver. I've been in the industry for 37 years and have accumulated 1.4 million safe driving miles. And I'm here today to tell you about one of the blind spots that we have on the truck. The left side, the driver's side. We see you best out of this side from our vantage point in the truck. And this is the side that we want you to pass us on. But I need to make it clear, we do have a small blind spot located about where this car is, right behind the driver's seat in the truck. If you're in this position, we could lose you in our mirrors and not see you. So if you find yourself in this spot beside the truck, we want you to safely maneuver on around us. That keeps us safer and you safer. And really, that's what the Share the Road program is all about.
This is the front end of the truck. The worst thing you could do is cut in front of a truck. Rule of thumb, look in your rear view mirror, and when you can see the whole truck in that mirror, that's the time to come over. That usually puts you 10 car lengths in front of our vehicle. Your car usually weighs 4,000 pounds, and fully loaded, this semi could weigh up to 80,000 pounds. And going 60 miles an hour, it could take the length of a football field and 2 end zones to stop.
So what you're telling me, Ralph, then is that if I'm driving a 4,000-pound car, that'd be 20 times my weight.
That's right.
That'd be like a 200-pound wrestler wrestling a man weighing 4,000 pounds.
Exactly, kind of like me wrestling you.
As a professional driver, I use every means possible to see out of my vehicle. Of course, I don't have the luxury of looking in a rearview mirror like you do in a car, or throwing my arm over the seat and looking at the back windshield. I have to use the tools that's been given me, my windshields and my mirrors, to see what I need to see. That's why this front windshield is so important. It's like my big screen television. It allows me to see what's going on out in front of me. 2 other important tools that I have are my mirrors on each side, outside of the truck. I have my right mirror, which allows me to see a narrow path down the right side of my trailer. However, not 2, 3, and 4 lanes over. The mirror on my left-hand side, with head movement, I can see better out of that one, which is the side we want you to pass us on. No matter what I'm doing, I have to focus on my driving. And that's what we want you to do. Because if we all stay focused on the highway, it'll be a much safer place for all of us.
Distracted driving is just as dangerous as drunk driving. Distractions in your car could be eating, drinking, could be talking to someone, and most common ones are on your phone or texting. Did you know if you travel 60 miles per hour for 6 seconds distracted, that you have actually went the length of a football field? What we want you to do is concentrate on your job, and that's driving.
You know, we had a lot of fun doing this video, and I hope you got the understanding that we're very proud of our record and we're very passionate about safety. And we've interjected some humor to make it fun. However, when you're driving, there is one place that you absolutely must keep your focus, and that's in a construction zone. You know, a construction zone is simply a temporary inconvenience for a major improvement. You know, those guys that are working on that road are working on that road for one reason, and that's to make the highway safer. There's a couple things you need to remember when you're going into construction zone. Number one, always obey the speed limit. That speed limit is set in place for everybody's safety. Also, the solid white lines are there so that nobody crosses that solid white line. It's very important never to tailgate, and especially not in a construction zone. Because in construction zones, things happen quickly. And the last thing you want is to run into the back of somebody because something happened in front of them. Remember, every one of those construction workers are mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and they all want the same thing that you and I do. And no matter who you are, whether you drive a truck, drive a car, or work in that construction zone, everybody's goal is to make the most important trip, the trip home, safely.
Okay, let's kind of work our way backwards from some of the things that they talked about. And I thought that they brought up some really good tips that hopefully you're going to implement into your driving. Let's start from the last thing that they mentioned, construction zones. We're still in the summer months. They're still going to be doing construction probably right through October. November, you don't see as much. But I know that some of you have had a problem in a construction zone that we've been going by on 155. The construction zone speed is posted on an orange sign, so that's the speed that we're supposed to go, as they said in the video. But the question is, do you go the construction zone speed if there's no construction being done at the time? Like on a weekend, late at night, early in the morning before they show up? Okay, the answer is no. Okay, you go regular speed. The reason why they want you to go slower in a construction zone is because construction zone workers do not always look before they move equipment or walk towards or walk backwards into the flow of traffic. And usually you're going to have a flag person telling you to either to move along slowly or to stop. So if they're not there and your lane's not impeded at all, then just go regular speed, just like a school zone. Do you go the school zone speed when there's no school on Saturday and Sunday? And the question is no. We know that's only before school and after school. So we kind of have to have a basic understanding of what was going on. We talked about the stopping distance. We know that it takes a lot longer for a truck to stop. We already mentioned that tonight. The other thing is that they've got multiple mirrors. Now, if a truck driver has that many mirrors and they've changed the angle, doesn't it make sense now for automobile drivers, like what we did on the driver's ed vehicles, we said, the more that you can add to your vision, the easier it is for you to drive. And one thing that they didn't mention, and I saw it on 60 Minutes probably about 2-3 weeks ago, is that they're going to self-automated trucks. Just like a Tesla, you can take your hands off the wheel, and because of GPS, it's going to guide you down the road. They're putting the same technology in trucks. These trucks are now making deliveries, okay, in certain parts of the country. I believe they don't have it up here. But you may be driving next to a tractor trailer sometime soon, and you're going to look up, there won't be a driver there. That's going to be kind of freaky, all right? But it is happening, and it will happen around here soon enough. So I wanted to mention that. So the no zone, and one of the things that I wish that I could have done this summer, New Hampshire does provide a service to driver's ed classes, more so in the summer than during the school year, but there are a few trucking companies, because of trying to, get the word out on safety with young drivers, they're willing to come out to a driver's ed class with one of these big rigs, and they give you a chance to get in, not to move it, but to see what they see. And then they'll set up other vehicles around. And this is a Walmart truck driver that I believe is doing this someplace down south. I think it's in Georgia or South Carolina, that they went out to a driver's ed class, and they provided this little informational class. Let me show you.
No zone, that's an area around a large commercial vehicle where we have trouble seeing cars and vehicles that's in close proximity. And the idea of this program is to share this knowledge with individuals that may not understand that we have difficulty seeing cars that are maybe right beside us. Never assume that a truck driver can see you. Make sure that you see the truck driver's face, make sure he sees you. If you find yourself on the right side of a tractor trailer, always assume that driver may not see you. And if you assume that and move forward or slow down and get behind him where he can see you, don't hang out in those blind spots. And when you're following the truck, we normally set up a car 65 feet behind the truck. And that represents about 3/4 of a second in travel distance. So if you're following a truck at 65 feet, it looks like a pretty far back, but I can't see you.
Remember the dump truck over on the side?
Yeah.
See it?
Yeah, that's it.
You have to lean forward though, don't you?
Yeah.
We have opportunities like this with the kids to share this type of information with them. It's a first-hand learning experience. When you see something hands-on, you tend to grasp it better, and so we hope that these kids here today will go out on the highways and realize when they're beside that large truck, that driver may not see them. And if a driver can't see them, if he changes lane, it can result in a very severe collision.
So I think after sitting in the seats that these kids will always remember what a truck driver is faced with. So don't stay any longer than you have to in these areas. We already mentioned don't try to go in front, especially when you're trying to make a sudden stop, because they're not going to be able to stop. Now, I disagree with this statement, stay back at least 3 seconds. Remember, the state has moved our following distance back, so it has to be 4 seconds back. And the further back that you are, the more apt to be able to see you in either side mirror. Now, we still will see motorcycles traveling around us probably for the next 2 months. All of September, all of October, and then November usually is when we start to see motorcycles maybe, giving it up for the season. There are some diehard motorcycle riders that will be out there all year long. Now, of course, they've got their leathers and they've got their helmets and they've got heated gloves and everything. So it's not like we're never going to see motorcycles, especially if we have a late winter, depending on what we have, snow and ice. They will be traveling in December, January, and February. But motorcycles do create problems for automobiles, for car drivers. The thing is that, and this is something I want you to know and I'm going to kind of go through some of this a little bit, but one thing about motorcycle riders is that most of them, not all of them, but most of them love the thrill of going fast. Here's an example, and this is from New Hampshire, by the way. Police say this motorcyclist hit a speed of 185 miles per hour. That's crazy. Crazy, crazy. You're going to be just a blood splat on the pavement if you were to hit an animal, if you were to hit a pothole, some type of mechanical problem. You're going down. Okay, you're going down, and it's not going to be pretty. Although it may feel, get the endorphins going. You got that thrill of going fast, but you better hope and pray that nothing bad happens. But I thought it was kind of funny. Even though this happened in New Hampshire, it was a mass rider. What do we say about mass people? Now, some of these videos, they're not, and I've got to find I'll try to find it a little bit later, but I want to show you about lane splitting because it's not illegal. It's illegal here in New Hampshire, and it is in the other New England states. But out west, I believe in California, lane splitting can happen. So let's kind of write down a few things about motorcycles, and I do want you to know this for Thursday and the final. And by the way, the final is going to be very heavy on material that we covered from the midterm on. So every class that we've had, like tonight's class, will probably have 5, maybe 6 questions. So when you're dealing with 100, it's pretty heavy. So half of all the crashes when we deal with motorcyclists and automobiles, it's kind of split right down the middle. We really can't blame motorcyclists entirely, but we can say that with any type of a crash with a motorcyclist in a vehicle, it's the motorcyclist that's getting the short end of the stick because they don't have the airbag. They don't have the metal that's surrounded around. They don't have the seat belt. So they've got to be extra cautious, more so than an automobile driver. But the thing is, they have the same rights and responsibilities, meaning they have to follow traffic law. Stop signs, traffic lights, yielding, where they place their vehicle. They just can't drive wherever they want, willy-nilly. And we find that with bicycles, too, because they're so small and they can they do what they want, and that's not right. So they're very small, so it makes it very difficult to see them. This is why we're requiring bicyclists to have reflectors and helmets and all these things, lights, especially at night, so we can pick them up a little bit easier. But when you do see a motorcyclist, next time that you see one, look at your speedometer and then look at the motorcyclist and see if you think that they're going the same speed. There's something about seeing a motorcycle that almost makes it look like they're not moving. A car we see coming towards us, and we can see their lane position maybe change a little bit. But a motorcyclist, and by the way, they're supposed to have their headlights on all the time. There is never a situation that they shouldn't have it on. But the other thing, too, that we've got to remember about motorcyclists is that they can stop a lot better than we can because they have better use of their front and rear brake, and they're lighter just by the mass of their vehicle. So don't get side by side with one and think that the outcome's going to be the same, stopping distance-wise. And probably the worst thing for a motorcycle is left turns, okay? Left turns is twofold. That like we said, we can't pick them up. We can't see them out of the traffic scene. And then when we do see them, it's really hard to judge what their speed is. Now, taking driver's ed, you have an instructor, you have me on the passenger side telling you different things to hopefully make you a better driver. How do you make a motorcyclist a better motorcyclist? You're not going to get on the back of a motorcycle with somebody, especially if they don't know how to ride one very well. That'd be kind of crazy for the instructor. So they do have a motorcycle class. I'm going to show you a clip of a class in Pennsylvania, and it's basically modeled just like ours. They're all about the same, where you start off with an instructional classroom period of learning the basics of stopping distance and balance and characteristics of a motorcycle and how to operate the brakes and, you know, where to look, how to use your eyes a little bit better. But this is kind of cool, and I found this just probably about a month ago, so I haven't put this in my class till just recently, is that some places use the instructor putting the trainee out into the roadway, and they follow behind on another motorcycle with an earpiece. And they're basically conveying questions and instruction from behind. So I guess if the trainee gets in a whole lot of trouble, that's too bad. He's going to suffer the consequences. The instructor's going to get out of it with no scrapes and bumps. But I guess this is the safest way to do it. But I really thought it was kind of interesting how the instructor was telling the motorcyclists, when you see a car turning left in front of you, change your position as a motorcyclist. Get away from where the car is turning towards you. So get to the furthest point away in your lane. Let me show you. This is kind of cool. So right now,
okay, let's get in the left lane.
He's left of center, and now he's just made a lane change. Now, what I think is really cool is when they come up to the intersection, you'll see the motorcyclist change his position.
So let this truck go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, leave lots of room.
Now, the reason why he's closer to the yellow line is that it's easier for the truck to see him in the.
Okay, good. So we got a truck up ahead. Okay, shoulder check, good. Moving away.
See how he moved over to the right?
And then shoulder check back.
Just because of that large truck that's going to be turning left.
Perfect.
Now he moves back to the middle. He comes to the next intersection at a traffic light where a car could be turning left at the light.
Yes.
He's going to move from the center
that
position.
move will save your life.
Over to the right. Now it's really kind of hard to read all that. But like what they were saying is that you don't want to disappear. You want to be seen by the truck that's in front of you. And I personally think he's too close.
Yeah, so get ready to do it again.
But it could be just the angle of the camera. But notice off to the right again. And then he moves back to the center position.
Excellent.
And we kind of should be doing that same thing too when we drive.
Perfect.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. Some special characteristics of motorcycles. They have to use their thumb to turn on their signal. And when they finish their turn, it doesn't turn off automatically. So remember, they don't cancel off. So just like some of you forget to turn your signals off, well, it happens with motorcyclists. So don't ever believe what a motorcyclist is indicating. You've still got to change or see a change in their speed and a change in their position. So make sure that you understand what they're doing. Following distance should be at least 3 to 4 seconds. Now, granted, you're going to see up the road further because you're going to see over the top and around a motorcyclist. So it's not like following a truck. So 3 seconds you could probably get away with, but let's just make it consistent with the new manual. Everything is 4. So I haven't changed this in this particular PowerPoint. Now, the more that a cyclist rides, the more he may get a little stiff. And a lot of times they're changing their position like we saw in that video just to create movement so you check your mirror. Because if you're using your mirror, remember your side mirrors and your rear view mirror, sometimes it's hard to pick up detail. But basically, if you see movement, okay, it's going to cause you to look in your mirrors. And that's why they're doing it, is for you to look in your mirrors. Never squeeze in next to them. Give them the full lane width. So don't crowd them. Okay, they could, and also sometimes when they're moving in their lane, they could be trying to get around other things that are on the road. Bad weather will create a traction problem as well as a vision problem. You've got wipers, they don't. Can you imagine having goggles or face shield and having rain? You're not going to see that well. They probably coat their goggles in their face mask with some type of repellent, like Rain-X, something like what we get when we come out of a car wash. That way it doesn't pool on their face shield. Crosswinds, road surface, railroad crossing, metal bridges, groove pavement, all these situations will create problems for motorcyclists. If we know that, we'll expect it when we have a motorcyclist in front of us. So when they change their position, we're ready for it. I wish I had this. I'm going to try to dig it up. Maybe I can find it for tomorrow. This was a person, I believe, that was on a cell phone. If you take a look at this picture, coming from the right side of this picture, turning into the gas station, is a car that's making a left-hand turn. And I believe because of the speed of the vehicle going very, very slow, I'm thinking they're probably distracted, like looking at their phone as they pull in. And guess what? They pull in right in front of a motorcycle, and a motorcycle hits the front end of the car, and he flies right over the hood of the vehicle. It's pretty crazy. I'll see if I can try to find it. So let's talk about our motorcycle course. I believe that they're still going to offer it right through October. The phone number that is listed up here, I believe, is also in your state manual. The nice thing about the motorcycle class is just like I provide you a vehicle to do your training with me, they provide a motorcycle for you to do your training. Now, if you have a motorcycle, you can bring it there and use your own. But a lot of people think about, I don't want to get a motorcycle unless I really like it and I'm good at it. So a lot of people will take the class with the provided motorcycle and then get a feel for the bike and whether it's something they want to continue on. So it's, pretty cheap money compared to putting out a lot of money for a motorcycle and then not liking it and then having to sell it. Now, it is cheaper than driver's ed because it's only 1 day or like a day and a half. They start you out in a classroom and then they bring you out into a course. I don't know where the classroom is, but I do know that Durham, over near the cottages or the lodges, they have a testing site where they do the actual driving around cones. And that's all it is. They don't take you out on a road like I just showed you. They take you on a big, huge parking lot and they have you go in and out of cones doing lane changes and balance exercises. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. It's on the weekend, usually Saturday and Sunday or Friday and Saturday. They have 2 types of courses. One's for a novice, one for an experienced rider. It is sponsored by the DMV, which means that once you complete the class, if they feel that you're adequate at controlling a motorcycle, since you've already got your operator's license and you know the laws, you become licensed at that point to ride a motorcycle. Your license now will be endorsed, or they'll put an endorsement on it indicating that you can legally ride a motorcycle. If you do not do the motorcycle course, you've got to make out an application just like you do for your driver's license and then get tested at the DMV. They set up one afternoon a week with cones in the parking lot, and they keep the cars away, and then they have you come with your motorcycle and they'll test to see whether you've got the adequate skills to ride a motorcycle legally. So a lot of people say, well, if I don't take the class, how do I get better? Well, they expect you to do that on your own. So what you do is you make out an application. They send you a permit, which allows you to go out into the road with that permit at your own risk and get better at riding a motorcycle. All right. So this is what it looks like. I believe this is Pennsylvania.
We really had fun taking the class. It was something that my husband and I did together, which made it even more special.
I thought, boy, this is going to be, why am I going to go do this? I've been riding so long, there's nothing I can, what are they going to teach me or what are they going to show me? And I was very shocked when I actually took it, and I learned quite a bit from that.
We got the club together and filled up a class, and in varying level of experience from people who've been riding, 30 and 40 years. And every one of them, when we got done with the class, was worthwhile.
For my family, the very first step of getting into motorcycling was signing up for the motorcycle safety course. Because even before we went out to invest money in buying a motorcycle, it was important for us to learn the intricacies of riding the bike, and you certainly want to be prepared for the road risks.
Since taking that course and learning at least that one technique alone, it's probably saved my life at least 15 times.
I think that there's just as much value in the classroom as there was as physically being on the bike. So when you go out and you get on the bike, all that mental stuff is already in there.
The instructors were very friendly, and they didn't make you feel uncomfortable or weird that you hadn't ridden before. They just eased you right into it. They have you just kind of walking the bikes along as they're on, and you start going around in circles, then you progress into weaving in and out between cones.
And the instructor stood in front of the cones, and at the last moment, he would point left or right, and you had to do like an evasive move. It was just that last split second which way to turn. And if you make a mistake, then you learn from it.
He actually threw it was a piece of block on the ground, like a 2x4, and you actually, instead of going around it, just go right through it. It just teaches you that if something's on the road and you're going like 55, 60, there's no sense of trying to go around it. You can't, because you ain't gonna have time to look left and right. Just go right straight through it.
You're constantly scanning ahead, and that's one of the things they teach you in the course. You are looking at the car in front of you, but you're actually looking further down. You're watching those intersections on your side. And these are some of the things that I never thought about, but the course talked about.
And all of a sudden, I start pulling around the curve, and another guy comes straight over. And if I would not have been aware, and again, this came from the course of being aware of everything that's happening around you, and I was able to stop. But if I'd have kept going, I would probably be a hood ornament at this point.
The maneuvering technique I did learn from the course did help me last year with the accident that I was in, that someone pulled out in front of me. And I was able to maneuver the bike to get around mostly, but the bike did clip the bumper a little bit. But still, I was able to get out unscratched and still walk away.
We're going through a small town, going 30 miles an hour, put my signal on to slow down, to stop, and the bike behind me slammed into me. The first thing I felt was this jerk, and then I heard the instructor's voice saying, "Hold on, keep the front tires straight. Slowly apply your brakes, both the front and the rear brakes slowly, and bring the bike to a slow stop." And that's exactly what happened.
You think you know about bikes, but you do not know about bikes until you take the safety course. You do not know about all the different things that can come at you. You don't pay attention to that when you're just riding without the knowledge. So it can definitely save your life. It's a lifetime lesson that costs nothing.
So that's a pretty cool class, so I highly recommend it. I think you're getting the same type of training in New Hampshire that the course in Pennsylvania. They're basically modeled the same way. I'm going to try something, so I want to show you that lane splitting. So let's see if this will work. Okay, hold on a second. I had it here. Okay, this is called lane splitting. What lane splitting is when you go off to the right or to the left in an area you should not be driving. Notice the tractor trailer wanted to hit no part. That motorcyclist cannot make his own lane. Now it gets really scary in the city when people go up between the dotted lines. So this is what most lane splitting is. I mean, he very easily could have gotten caught underneath that truck. He's fortunate that he didn't die. Now this guy, I believe, does a wheelie. So you can't see, he went up. You could tell he's a thrill seeker, and that's extreme speed right now. Now he's going to come up on this car, and he's just going to decide to go right down the middle until somebody moves too close to the dotted line. I believe this is a roundabout, and he's coming in way too fast. This is why you have a recommended speed for the roundabout, and he hits a little bit of gravel. And it goes right off his bike into the middle of the roundabout. This one, I believe, is pretty bad. I think he gets thrown from the
Ёбаный дурак, блядь.
This is another reason why you always check your side view mirrors, right and left. Now, here it was motorcycles. Bicycles sometimes do the same thing in the city. So don't think this is just for motorcycles. If you pass a bicycle in Durham and you're going, the speed limit in Durham's 25, and you only go up about 200 feet and traffic is heavy, guess what? The bike that you just passed, because of the speed that he's going to be right beside you again. Don't lose track of him. Check your mirrors. Know where he's located at all times. So bicycle safety. Now this I will test you on. When passing a bike, every driver of a vehicle shall exercise due care by leaving reasonable and prudent distance. This is what I want you to know. 3 feet at 30 miles per hour. And then for every additional 10 miles per hour over 30, you have to give an additional 1 foot. I will test you on this. So arm length. Think of an arm length. If you could reach out the passenger side window, could you reach and touch the handlebar? We're not talking the person, because all it takes you to hit his handlebars and he's gonna flip. He's gonna go all over the place. So it's the closest point. If there is no room, you must wait till traffic has gone by. That is called separating traffic. Now, when you can't separate traffic, the term is called compromise. So write down separate. Separate means slow down, wait for traffic to go by you, and then you go around the cyclist. You do not want to be between the cyclists and the oncoming vehicles if you can avoid it. If you have to do it like a corner or a hill, then the term compromise means giving 3 to 4 feet to the bicyclist, giving 3 or 4 feet to the oncoming vehicle. So you're giving equal distance. So let's take a look at bike safety. Oh, I forgot about, before I show you that, what happens on a motorcycle
Every year, thousands of Californians who ride bicycles or motorcycles are killed or injured in collisions with motorists. Sometimes the cause is the cyclist's behavior. Sometimes it's the motorist's lack of attention. Let's look at some safety tips for sharing the road with bicycles and motorcycles. First of all, as a motorist, you must keep in mind that bicycle and motorcycle riders have the same rights and responsibilities as vehicle drivers while on public roads. Respect their right-of-way because they are entitled to share the road with you. Look carefully for cyclists before making turns, merging into traffic, changing lanes, or when opening doors next to moving traffic. Look over your shoulder and use mirrors before changing lanes. Motorcycles can come into your lane within seconds, which is why looking over your shoulder is essential each time you change lanes. Road hazards such as potholes, gravel, wet surfaces, pavement seams, and railroad crossings pose hazards to cyclists. They may cause them to vary their speed, change direction, or fall suddenly. Drive attentively and be aware of how these conditions affect cyclists. Statistics show that a high percentage of injury collisions are caused by failing to yield the right-of-way to cyclists. Remember, courtesy and common sense promote traffic safety for all, so here's what you can do to help prevent collisions at intersections or roundabouts. Make a visual check and use your mirrors and turn signals before entering an intersection or roundabout. Look for that bicycle or motorcycle rider that just might be in your blind spot. Bicyclists are even more difficult to see and can easily disappear in vehicle blind spots. Follow the right-of-way rules. Remember to yield to any vehicle already in the intersection or arriving first, or to the vehicle on the right that reaches the intersection at the same time as you. This includes bicycle and motorcycle riders. Never assume cyclists will give you the right-of-way. Here are some tips when passing cyclists. Try to avoid passing cyclists on two-lane roads. If you must pass, be patient and pass cyclists on the left when it's safe. As you pass, allow a safe clearance between you and the cyclist. Don't squeeze cyclists off the road. Remember, they have just as much right to be there as you do. On freeways, you will at times find a special lane called a high occupancy vehicle or HOV lane. Motorcycles are allowed to ride in these lanes and may very well pass you, so be on the lookout for them. Check your blind spot. The roads are crowded enough, so the best way to prevent a collision is to distance yourself from other vehicles and cyclists. This gives you more time to react and space to maneuver. Allow a cyclist a full lane width. Although it is not illegal to share lanes with cyclists, it is not safe. Allow a 4-second following distance for motorcyclists. You will need this space to avoid collision should the rider fall. Never drive your vehicle in the bicycle lanes. The only exception is when making a right turn. You must be within 200 feet of the corner or a driveway entrance before you can merge into the bicycle lane. Also, do not speed up to overtake a bicycle just before making a right turn. Merge into the turning lane behind the bicyclist, then make the turn. When using a turning lane, watch for bicycles making left and right turns. They are required to use the same turning lanes as vehicles. Look for any hand signals from the bicyclists that indicate they're turning or making a lane change. One final thing you may not be aware of. Bicycles and motorized bicycles are lawfully allowed to ride on certain sections of freeways when there's no alternate route available to them and when signs are posted. As a motorist, remember to keep in mind that bicycle and motorcycle riders have the same rights and responsibilities as vehicle drivers while on public roads. They are entitled to share the road with you, so please respect their right-of-way. Make the roads a safer place for everyone.
So basically, bicycles and pedestrians tend to be the hardest situations for young drivers to pick up. We're so worried about our position, our speed, picking up signs, that we're missing bikes and we're missing pedestrians, especially in a college town like Durham. I can't tell you how many times recently, because of all the college kids coming back, that we're missing things. And I'd hate for you to get your license and to have an incident with a pedestrian or a bike. Because personally, that's my biggest fear as a driving instructor. It's not hitting another car, because we've had a car hit us. We get the damage fixed, and it's, no problem. But I think if we ever hit a bicyclist or a pedestrian where they were physically hurt, I just don't know how, we're going to deal with that. Because you're always going to probably see that in your mind. And you're going to probably have to deal with them with medical bills too, more than just fixing up a car. So let's talk about bike safety. And we kind of saw that in the video, so that we're going to just go over this really quick. They do have to obey the same rules as drivers. They have to signal their stops and turns. But here's one, is riding two abreast. That means side by side. When you see two abreast, that means side by side. And they don't hold up traffic. Ride single file if it looks like if you're next to another bicyclist and cars are beeping at you, maybe you shouldn't be beside your friend. Go single file for a while because the road's not wide enough. And technically, legally, you're not supposed to ride on a sidewalk because people will come off or come out of their cars. People will come out of businesses and step out, and they don't expect a bike to be, riding by about 10, 15 miles per hour. Should never hang on to another vehicle on your bicycle to get to where you're going. They should yield to pedestrians just like a car, because a bike is a vehicle, has wheels, goes the same direction. They should only carry a passenger unless there's an attached seat like a banana. We used to call it a banana seat. Don't have anything that interferes with control of the bike. And remember to always go in the same direction. So if you follow these rules, riding a bike with traffic is going to be a lot safer. I'm only going to talk about a couple of these. Headlights should be on at night. If you're riding, that's going to help out not only you to see the road where there could be some bad conditions up ahead, but also it's going to help people that are coming towards you or behind you. Police officers can stop you. You can break a law and get a moving violation ticket with a bicycle. Believe it or not, it's true. And if you're under the age of 16, you still have to wear protective headgear. So some of you I know are turning 16 soon, so then it comes personal choice. But as we saw earlier about helmets, it does help. So I would highly recommend wearing it. Now this I will test you on too. This is a new law as of about 3 to 4 years ago. Every bicyclist shall wear at least one item of reflective clothing, so that we're meaning a vest, jacket, helmet strip, the same time that cars are required to have their headlights on. So a half hour after sunset to a half hour before sunrise. The more reflective material, the more headlights, taillights, the easier it is going to be for people to pick you up, the safer that you're going to be. Pedestrians. Okay, a lot of pedestrians in Durham. So remember, they have the right of way when they are waiting at a crosswalk. It's not that they're still approaching. Although if they're approaching and you're still approaching, are they going to probably get to the opening of their crosswalk before you do it? In that case, they would have the right of way. If they're going past an alley, a driveway, and remember, blind people will always have right of way. So the motor vehicle law requires drivers to come to a complete stop for persons with a white cane or a dog attempting to cross the road. Before continuing, drivers must use caution and be aware that they play a very important role in how the person safely negotiates his or her route of travel. The person who is blind listens to hear the vehicle. Now that's fine on a gas engine, but on a hybrid that shuts off, it's going to be difficult. So I want you to write down in your notes, stay 10 to 15 feet away at a crosswalk. And I believe whether it's a blind person or a regular pedestrian, give them that comfort and safety that you are not going to crowd them right at their crosswalk. It's only 10 or 15 feet. You're going to gain that in the first second you get your foot off the brake. So be kind. And plus, if you foot slips, you got a little bit of space. So what should pedestrians do? They shouldn't jaywalk. They should use their crosswalks, although we know that they do jaywalk. Look both directions before crossing. Walk on the left side facing oncoming traffic. Obey the walk or do not walk signals. Now remember, you cannot turn right on a red light with a walk signal. You have to wait for the solid hand. A lot of people, you'll notice, a lot of people don't do that. At night, a pedestrian should have light or white clothing, and they should carry a light. And if they do walk on an interstate, it should only be because of an emergency. So they say never. So let's take a look at some pedestrian safety.
This is the intersection of Forest Hill Boulevard and Military Trail. What we're doing here, this is a combined event between the Palm Springs Police Department, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff's Office, the Department of Transportation, and the Metropolitan Planning Organization. We're here on a grant from the University of South Florida and DOT. We're promoting safety for pedestrians and safety for bicyclists, and raising awareness for vehicles in the intersection and pedestrian rights.
What are you going to do if you see that red hand? Are you going to go? No, you don't go. What color are you waiting for?
White.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, here's the bag here. So we're going to know, and you stay on that crosswalk, okay? Great job.
When a pedestrian is crossing a street that is controlled by lights and a crossing signal, the pedestrian has to wait for the signal to change from a red hand to a white walking pedestrian. The person will then have approximately 38 seconds to cross the street. They have to do so within the crosswalk in the allotted amount of time. For a pedestrian and or bicyclist not using the crosswalk, the fine is $64.50. If you don't cross within the crosswalk, motorists are not going to expect you to be there at that specific point of the roadway, and that's where the vehicles have the right of way. In the intersections and the crosswalks, the pedestrian has the right of way. Bicyclists, when they're on the sidewalk, have the same responsibility as a pedestrian. At nighttime, they have to have a white light on the front of the bicycle, and they have to have a red light to the rear of the bicycle. The biggest problem I see with bicyclists is as they're riding on the sidewalk and or the bicycle lane, they just decide to change lanes in the middle of the road, or they don't wait for the light to change and they just dart across the road. If they're in the roadway, believe it or not, a bicyclist has to obey all the traffic laws as a motor vehicle does. If they are using a motorized bicycle or a scooter on the sidewalk, the fine is actually $166 and 3 points on a license. Wait for the light to cycle where it's safe for you to cross. Cross only when that pedestrian signal indicates you to cross. Don't cross in the mid-block where cars are not going to expect you to cross. That's where a lot of people are getting hit. What we see a lot in this intersection here is people will get off the bus, they'll wait for the bus to leave, and they dart across the street. Now here they're darting across 6 lanes of a highly used highway to get to the other bus stop, which is on the other side of the road. It's not safe. It's very dangerous. This is where we get people killed.
Anything you'd like to add?
Just be safe and be seen.
Good to know that somebody's helping us out, you know, because we almost get hit daily on the road riding our bikes from to work. So it's a nice thing that you guys are out here.
So when they were talking about the timing, 30 seconds, that has to do with the 4 lanes of roads. So when you have less lanes, there's less time. The other thing that you should always take into account is assess the age of the person that's walking across and their ability. Older people will walk slower. People that are handicapped with a disability will probably walk slower. So even though the timer is probably expired, don't just rush across. Be kind, be courteous, and let them finish. So don't try to push them. Joggers, children, and animals. We're going to see more about animals later this week on the review, or maybe even tomorrow. So we'll talk more about that. Be careful with people that aren't paying attention, whether they've got headphones on or talking to other people. Let me show you one more. This has to do with a high school kid. So this was a commercial about teen safety with driving and pedestrians. This very well could be high school students from Oyster River going to school in the morning, dealing with a kid from junior high. Because the junior high is so close to the high school, I can see this happening.
Chris, watch out!
I'll never forget that day. A week before graduation, we were so excited. You see headlines about people getting hit, and you never think it could be you or your friends. A split second. I looked away for a split second, and that's all it took. Every day I see that same kid, and every day I think about what could have happened. I swore I would never put anyone in that situation again. It wasn't so long ago I was walking to school. I made mistakes then too, but now that I'm driving a few tons of steel, I owe it to those children to be cautious, to know the law, and drive defensively. After all, I'm still a pedestrian too. When I'm walking to my car or across campus, you never know what you're getting into. But you can look for clues that pedestrians may be present. Crosswalks, pedestrian crossing signs, intersections, or someone simply standing at the curb. When a pedestrian is in a mid-block crosswalk or you're making a turn on a green light, they have the right of way. Also, pedestrians have the right of way at unmarked crosswalks, where a sidewalk ends at a street with no traffic signals. Think of the sidewalk as extending into the roadway. You can't always predict what other drivers are going to do either. I've had people go around me when I stop for someone in the crosswalk. These days, I don't just stop. I keep my eyes open for kids darting into traffic, coming from all different angles. You never know. Kids can be unpredictable. So expect the unexpected. Like here. Kids cross here all the time. They can't see me, and I can't see them. That's why I go extra slow. I used to think it was cool to goof off when I was driving. I thought I was a good driver, even though I thought it was okay to use my phone, or text, or make a quick call. But that was before I realized how easy it is to hit someone, maybe kill someone. I don't want that hanging over my head for the rest of my life. I've got other things to worry about now, like college, finding a parking spot.
Okay, a couple things that I want to point out, which I thought were really good, is that the young pedestrian saw the car coming around the corner. As a pedestrian, you should never step out off of the sidewalk onto the crosswalk unless you know the car sees you and is slowing down to stop. But we know with college kids, they've got their phone in front of them, their own, headphones on, they're not paying attention, and they have that mentality, you hit me and I'm going to sue you type of thing. You better deal with me out on the roadway. It's your responsibility. But that's not entirely true. The other thing as a driver, you've got to pick up. You've got to think the worst. You've got to think every pedestrian is a possible pedestrian that's crossing the street. Don't assume, oh, I thought he was just going straight. You got to think, oh, I think he's going to cross. Because what's the worst thing? You're braking for a person that's continuing to go straight and not beelining in front of you to walk across the road. I doubt that you will encounter many pedestrians on your driving test. So I'm not really worried with pedestrians with you on your driving test. I'm worried about pedestrians once you get your license and you don't have a parent or an instructor in the car or friends in the car to help you see things that you may not see. And I've probably got half of you that I've driven with that we've missed things. Remember we talked about the term inattention blindness? You're going to have this problem. We want to minimize it. This is why slower speeds, better vision checks, and assume the worst, and you're going to be okay. Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about, and this is something that's in all 50 states, so I want you to write this down. It's called the move over law, which means that if there's a police officer or a fire truck or ambulance off to the side of the road, that you are supposed to get out of your lane into the lane next to you if you can. If you can't get out of your lane because there's cars next to you, you want to crowd over as far as you can in your lane to the other lane. That way you're giving the emergency personnel as much room. Now watch this video. You're going to see a police officer get mowed over.
Every year, thousands of law enforcement officers are injured or killed by passing vehicles on our nation's roads and highways. These tragedies don't have to happen. Whenever an emergency vehicle has its lights on, move over away from the emergency vehicle. If you can't change lanes because of traffic, or if you're traveling on a two-lane road, slow down at least 20 miles per hour below the posted speed limit.
Help protect the officers who protect you. Please move over, and if you can't, then slow down. It's the law.
So what does this actually look like? So this last little video clip, or let's talk about the points. Reduce your speed. Now, I don't necessarily agree with what they said about the speed, but go much slower. If there are some authorized people outside directing traffic, just follow their direction. A lot of times they'll put their hand and wave it down, indicating they want you to go slower. And I already talked about getting out of your lane. So that means vacate. Vacate means to leave. And wholly means your entire lane. Partially, I think we know that means you're still lingering a little bit into your original lane. But try to get out of your lane wholly. So give a wide berth without endangering traffic that's beside you or coming towards you, or the people that are working on the side of the road, the emergency. And this is what it looks like if you're doing it right. So that's what it looks like by moving over wholly. So basically what you were supposed to do was chapter 11 and do the questions in responsible driving and to read section 11 in the manual. And by reading section 11, I believe that will finish your reading from the state manual. Now, because this week is our last week, I would probably reread it when it comes to studying for the final. If you look at the back of the manual, they only give you 11 practice questions. So on Wednesday, I'm going to give you like 70 or 80 practice questions to see how well you do. So we'll have like a video quiz to do on Wednesday. Tomorrow, we'll talk about distracted driving. It says road rage, but it's not because we've already covered that. We may hit up on it just a little bit again. But we'll be talking about manual transmission. That was something that was covered in responsible driving, but not in the state manual. I like to talk about it a little bit, show you a little bit of video about how to handle the clutch and find the friction point in case you ever get to operate a manual transmission vehicle. And the other thing that we'll probably talk about is, well, we haven't talked about fatigue. We kind of skipped over that, and we haven't talked about how to put gas in a car. So those two things that we still have to cover, but we've got a couple days to go over that. But for the most part, the manual is now completed. I don't think it's that involved. I think I gave you a lot more information. Hopefully it was helpful to understand some of these topics, things that will challenge you to be a better driver. We'll continue on with our driving, so make sure that you contact me when you have free time. Let's try to drive during your free periods. If you want to drive during lunch, we can do that. And let's finish strong. Let's finish strong. So please get your homework in, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. So we'll see some of you tomorrow for driving. So have a good night. See you tomorrow.